Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special quill edition of the Tatiana Show. Today, we're going to be talking all things New Hampshire, PorcFest, with, of course, the Queen herself, Carla Gericke. Welcome back to the Tatiana Show. So nice to see your smiling face.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. Spring has sprung. It's not as fancy as Miami, but, we're happy up here. The birds are singing, the sun's shining. Life's good.
Absolutely. Well, there are not many places that are very free, and some places like Florida and Texas are calling themselves free states. But the real original free state is New Hampshire. So people are thinking about moving out of their crappy towns right now because they're living under, communism or, imitation communism, however you want to look at it. And they don't like that. They're looking for a place to run away to. Before we dive into PorcFest and all the current festivities, can you give us a little bit of a background about how did the Free State Project start, and a little bit of the background so people can learn if that might be a good fit for them?
Sure. So the Free State Project has been around now almost for 20 years. In fact, PorcFest will be celebrating its 18th annual Porcupine Freedom Festival, which to me is shocking. I've been involved with this for a long time, which might explain the gray hair. The Free State Project is a concept of trying to concentrate libertarians, liberty lovers, ANCAPs, cryptos, whatever you want to call yourself. If you basically think whatever's happening now is crapola and you're seeking a community of people who actually understand what the issues are, from monetary policy through civil liberties, then the Free State Project can be an option for you. We are concentrating in New Hampshire because its value proposition is there. It's a really small state. We're about 1.3 million people. Low taxes, no sales tax, no income tax. Property taxes differ from place to place. You can actually find places where there is no property taxes, but they, as a line item, can be a little higher. But the overall tax burden in New Hampshire is the second lowest in America. Wow. 4 years now, we have been concentrating thousands of people here, and basically what we're trying to do is to create an actual free state. So, people talk about Florida and Texas and all these places, and I think there is a value proposition. I think it's great that a lot more people, as a result of this stupid COVID crap, have woken up and that people are actually seeking solutions. I think we're the core with the OG solution, if you might. But, even a place like Texas or Florida will likely become a conservative sort of state. But I think what's going to happen in New Hampshire long term is this is actually going to become a core libertarian state, and with the value propositions that has. And I also really genuinely hope it becomes this huge crypto capital, right? So we have a lot of crypto stuff going on here. We've had a lot of arrests over the past 2 weeks. Crap's kind of popping, and it does feel like the feds are kind of looking around and kind of going, who are those people up there in New Hampshire we didn't like 10 years ago, 15 years ago? What do we have now? So the Free State Project, people can learn more at fsp.org. There's a lot of information on the website in terms of, what it is, what we're looking for. We're looking for builders and doers, people who really want to come make a difference. I mean, if you want to escape, that's fine. Come escape. We're not going to hold it against you. But really, we are trying to build this sort of futuristic place. I mean, one of the ways I've sort of been explaining it lately, and I think this will appeal to you, I'm a big sci-fi fan, and I've been sort of saying, that in every sci-fi movie or every sci-fi show, there's always that one little planet where people go. They usually go when they, need to fix their ship. They need to buy some new ammo. They need, I don't know, to meet someone, maybe hire a mercenary, fix something, and so they go to this one planet, and that planet is always the free trade planet with like the cool bars where you have every race mixing and right? And so I'm like, I want New Hampshire to become that planet where you come for a good time and where you come because everything's based on markets, i.e. we trade for what we want. We don't fight about it or, pit classes against each other. Everyone can get what they want if they're willing to trade for it. So that's my plug for New Hampshire and the Free State Project. People should check it out. And one of the best ways to actually check it out is to come to PorcFest.
Right. So PorcFest is the highlight of all of New Hampshire activities, right? Are we going to delve into that? Because there's a lot of other New Hampshire stuff. I think let's hype them up on PorcFest because let's face it, that's what people want to know about, right? This year, I hear it's going to be the biggest one, or it's just got a huge amount of interest. Like, tell me what's happening because it's a little bit unstructured. What's the history of PorcFest? Where is it? Tell us more.
Sure. So PorcFest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, is now in its 18th year. It'll be held up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And this is a total aside, but it makes me laugh every time. And I might even put it on a t-shirt just because this will be my troll for the year. But recently someone came out with a report that called New Hampshire alarmingly white. It is, it's an old state with old people. It's 97% white. It's not our fault. That's just how the demographics are up here. I don't know why someone has to call it alarmingly white. But the area where PorcFest is taking place is called the White Mountains. And so I'm like, PorcFest in the alarmingly white mountains. So it's up in Lancaster, and it's held on a campground. The campground's called Rogers Campground. We've been up there for many years. We've got Tom Woods is coming. Hopefully Miss Tatiana is coming.
I am coming. I'm definitely
Jeffrey
coming.
Tucker, Naomi Wolf. I need to square that away, but I think she's coming, and I'm hoping she'll bring the ladies, so we get a good swell of women coming in. We have, the KB's coming back. We have all the usual suspects, Gordon Page, Dave Smith, the comedian. He'll be doing a comedy night on Thursday night. The Wednesday night, we have Gene Epstein is coming up with the Soho Forum, and we're going to have one of those debates down at the Pavilion. And I believe that's actually being framed as when will crypto replace FRNs? So that's a pretty solid throwdown. We want to make sure that we are encouraging people to go after non-inflationary assets, especially given what is going to be happening with this $6 trillion that we just kind of kicked into the economy over the last 12 months. So, it's taking place. It's June 21st through the 27th. Mm-hmm. Tickets are currently $50 for the entire week, which is ridiculous. They will be going up. They'll go up to 75 and then they'll go up to 100 again. We had the early Porcupine tickets. I might make the $100. I might even make it $200 because I have to plan this crap, with volunteers. So the sooner people do things, the easier it is for me. So I might call those, last tickets the final pricks, as in prick for porcupine.
Wow.
Yeah. So this year, one of the things we're also doing differently, we always have, we have this sort of main stage, and sponsorship is still open for that. If someone wants the naming rights to the pavilion, we can talk.
Yeah, what's the sponsorship look like? Because there's a lot of crypto companies that now have some money. Can they, what does that sponsorship look like?
Yeah, so we're basically, I think the way I'm going to do it is, and honestly, it's like the last little thing, so I'm kind of figuring that out, but I think what I'm going to do is the pavilion will be a $10,000 naming privilege, right? So every time something gets mentioned, it'll be like in the, the Queen Quill Pavilion or whatever, Queen Tatiana Pavilion, whatever it is, right? And then...
A lot of queens.
The queens. And then we actually have, we're going to have sponsorship specifically for specific events. So, if someone wants to sponsor Dave Smith's thing, we can talk. So really the short answer is we can talk. I will do a base level $1,000 probably sponsorship, and that'll get you in, a little passport-y kind of thing. We're making these fun Free State Project passports, for maybe one day when the Free State is a free state. But right now it's just marketing. And so sponsorships are available. I think it's important for crypto folks to know, the Free State Project has been taking crypto since 2011. We were one of the first nonprofits. I remember doing a talk probably in 2012 at, I think it was at Freedom Fest, with anti-war and Bitcoin's not bombs and, all these things. And at the time, it was very cutting edge that there were these small nonprofits, which is what the FSP is, taking Bitcoin and taking crypto. So crypto is definitely where it's at. If you'll allow me to just quickly, briefly explain the two crypto cases that are currently happening here.
Yes, so, I was going to ask you about that. So please, I know everybody's been seeing a lot in the news.
Yeah, so there are two separate issues. The one is what we're calling the Crypto 6, and that's the free keeners out in the Keene area in Freeman and that crew doing, they do Free Talk Live. And so he's been running Bitcoin ATMs across the state for a long time. And so they got raided probably 3 weeks ago now by the ATF/FBI. It was a concerted raid across New Hampshire. In fact, there's a bar here in downtown Manchester has a crypto Bitcoin ATM, has had it for probably 5 or 6 years. And they showed up with a warrant there as well and was like, okay, we're taking your Bitcoin machine. And, the tap room was like, oh, okay, I guess you're taking my Bitcoin machine. And so 6 people were arrested. 4 of them have made bond with very, very weird, stringent bond bail conditions, including things like you're not allowed to use a phone and you're not allowed to drink alcohol. And I'm like, how is that even allowed in the land of the free, right? How are they now?
What does alcohol have to do with anything?
I don't know, man. I mean, we all know the state's out of control, right? So I think, it's just within that whole thing. And the justice system is shockingly out of control. I don't see how you can justify if you're innocent until proven guilty and you have the right to a speedy trial, how you can do the things they're doing, amongst other things, punishing and pre-punishing you when you haven't been found guilty. The 2 activists that are still in jail at this time are Nobody, who legally changed his name. That, of course, is Rich Pohl, who was a big 420 marijuana cannabis activist out here in New Hampshire. He refused bail, and I think that was sort of on principle, just like, well, screw you. Mm-hmm. Ian Freeman, his bail application was actually rejected. They said in the 12-page, I think it was like a 12-page order, they said that because he has a lot of resources. I mean, they actually say in the newspaper articles, they're like, he owns at least 28 Bitcoin. And I'm like, how do you, okay. So they found a lot of cash. And so they're saying 2 things. One is they're saying he's a danger, which is absolute BS. I mean, Ian and I don't always see eye to eye, but he is a peaceful man, and to malign him that way is just unconscionable. It's not true. He is not a risk to anyone. The other thing they said is that he could be a flight risk, but, he's on the record saying he wouldn't do that, and one can only take, someone at face value. He seems like a moral person. Again, I don't always agree with him, but, I've never been like, you didn't say that, so whatever. So that is what we're calling the Crypto 6. We'll be doing fundraising for them, obviously, and I think it's, important to keep the industry focused on that. The bigger issue from, I think, a industry-wide crypto perspective is actually the lawsuit against LBRY. So LBRY, as we know, is a decentralized platform that basically tokenizes stuff, but it's censor-proof, right? So the shorthand version is it's censor-proof YouTube. So, I know, for example, on my YouTube channel, I have everything and it transfers to Odyssey, and I'm really happy because I am being deplatformed faster than I could platform, So, so in that case, that is coming from the SEC, and basically what they're trying to do wrongly, and I really don't see what leg they have to stand on here, is they're saying that this is a securities issue. But, LBRY basically, they didn't issue securities. The company has spent more than $1 million in legal fees from real law firms trying to comply with everything. It's on record from 2018 that they've been, saying, hey, what do you guys want us to do? They were trying to do it by the book, right? And so that, I think, is a surprising case. For me, as someone who's been involved with the Free State Project and sort of building this libertarian paradise up here in the north of America, I am troubled because it seems concerted. It seems like we know, given after, the past presidency, that there is probably a slight target on libertarians. We certainly know that the alphabet soups don't like our philosophy of peace and freedom and prosperity for all and not just for the cronies. They don't like disruptive stuff. They don't like alternate tech. And so I'm hopeful that it's happenstance that these things all happen within a month.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, it doesn't feel that way. It feels super very politically driven. I mean, it's like a Ross situation almost. I don't know. What do you think is going to be the outcome there? Do you think it's able to be predicted?
Let's not make any predictions at this stage. I mean, I do hope with the LBRY in particular, I think that they're framing it very well. I think the way that that's sort of being positioned as help LBRY save crypto, right? Because I think this is a cutting edge lawsuit and it's a cutting edge thing. And if the decision goes in the wrong way on this one, if they do say anything that's tokenized as a security, if you've passed it through, it's a trade, and then you're suddenly subjected to all these security regulations and all this stuff, then it's going to destroy or at least deeply harm this emerging market. So I'm hopeful there that people will really get involved and that we can frame it and that, we can see some success on that. On the Crypto 6 stuff, I haven't actually read the entire indictment, so I haven't looked. I am a lawyer by training. I haven't looked at it through a lawyer's lens yet. I find that these kinds of cases, first of all, I mean, it's BS. It's in the sense that there's no real victim. It's just the state claiming victimhood. I did notice that in some of the newspaper articles, they are saying that the machines were used for romance scams. And I was like, so has every ATM in America. Let's start there, right? If you're going to say
a romance scam, why do you need a romance scam with Bitcoin? Can't you just send USD to some lady that doesn't really love you? I mean, is that what a romance scam is? That's what I'm thinking it is.
I mean, I don't even know, but I'm pretty sure if they're going to say that because this tech or this machine was used for that, I'm like, but then PayPal, Facebook, every bank in America must also be held liable because I'm pretty sure there's some Nigerian princes who've used those platforms.
A lot of royalty there.
So I think with the Crypto 6, I mean, I am concerned. You mentioned Ross Ulbricht, of course, of the Silk Road case. And sadly, I mean, the government, nothing there is fair. So I think once you're ensnared in that scenario, especially if you kind of think, well, I'm just going to go to the mat with them, it's generally not pretty. Ian does have a really good lawyer. I mean, the minute it happened, I called around and I was like, don't dick around. Get like the best lawyer. He has resources. Get a bulldog. Get someone who, And so the guy he hired is a solid lawyer with a good reputation for going to bat for his client. But it is a complex case. Now, what's interesting here in New Hampshire is we passed a law. So we have free staters who run for office. We have people who start businesses like LBRY and that kind of stuff.
Wait, is LBRY based in New Hampshire?
Say again?
Is LBRY based in New Hampshire?
Yeah, it is. Downtown Manchester right here. And actually the CEO of LBRY serves on the Free State Project's board.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
okay.
Yeah, so it's very
in California for some reason. But look at that, New Hampshire, home of innovation, making jobs happen.
Yep, and
But
honestly, I mean,
jobs, obviously, I mean, look at how they're treating everybody. Please continue. We can go on that tangent later.
Oh, and I should mention the unemployment rate here, even with COVID, is like 3.3%. So if someone's looking for a job, we're looking for you. But with the LBRY stuff, we're going to have to see. It's going to take a long time. I forget exactly where I was with that, but yeah. So that's what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is we have free staters who run for office as well, and so we've had scores, dozens, 40 plus, but the Liberty Caucus in New Hampshire, out of 400 in the House, we have a really big House of Representatives. About 100 are self-identified Liberty people, so about a quarter, right? So we really do have a block now that can jam some stuff up when we need to. But interestingly, in 2017, Keith Emmon passed a bill here that was signed into law that actually said that crypto in New Hampshire is not subject to money transfer laws. So it's kind of a nullification bill. And in the same way that we had nullification with, cannabis and state rights over the years, I mean, it took a long time and it was very incremental. But I think people will undoubtedly agree that that strategy of doing it on a state's level did actually work. So there's this 2017 bill here that I find kind of intriguing, and I'm not sure how it's going to fit into the whole mix. But if they can make it so that they have to do the lawsuit here in New Hampshire, I think we might have a nullification case on our hands. Like, I think we might be able to say, well, show us the harm, but two, show us how we broke any money transfer laws, if it took place, the machines in New Hampshire, all of that. So, we've been suffering under the Chinese curse now for a while, the one where we got to live in interesting times, and we are.
Interesting times. That's a nice way of putting it. Okay, so I want to shift gears because, this year has been very critical of the police. We've seen some defunding. We've seen some rising crime. And I think that people really missed the boat with the questioning of the police, right? They never handled the drug war, which is really what's causing a lot of these unnecessary kind of interactions. They didn't talk about civil asset forfeiture. You recently took it upon yourself to inform the community about some of police officers' actions. And just before I get started, I would like to say that while I do not consider it a moral profession, I don't also like to just crap on cops because I think that they are people and I just wish that they would get a better job. So I know that a lot of them have good intentions, and so we're not trying to do that. However, not all of them are good, and you were watching, so tell us what happened.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I mean, I have sort of, shifted my framing a little bit as well in the sense that we claim that we don't believe in collectivism. So I think you have to be careful when you talk about people to not just be like, all cops are bad. I mean, I agree with you. I think the profession kind of sucks and it lends itself two problems. But here in New Hampshire, so basically what happened is we have something that's called the LBRY's list that has now been called the exculpatory evidence schedule. And basically what it is it's a list that has to be kept by the AG's office, because under federal law, there was a court case from the 60s called the Brady case. And what the Brady case said was, if you have exculpatory evidence, i.e. evidence that might find someone not guilty of a crime, then the prosecutor has a duty to inform the defense attorney so that the defense attorney can use that as part of the defense. So things that would be exculpatory would be like, if you're charging one person, but someone else might have confessed to the crime. Seems like you should, I don't know, like maybe not charge the person you're charging, right? So that's a very concrete example. But then there are other examples, and some of them boil down to how trustworthy is ex-police officer. So if a police officer in New Hampshire has sustained findings of misconduct, which is a 20-page process done by their own police chief, then if they've been deemed untrustworthy in the sense that they either can't, so these are people who are so untrustworthy, they're not allowed to testify in court because it would just clearly be perjury. So these are people who lie, they falsify police records, which is, a personal one for me because my police record was made up wholesale, whole cloth when I was arrested 10 years ago. Excessive force and all this stuff. So basically what happened was there's this list in New Hampshire, and it has about 270 officers on the list. And for years now, the newspapers in New Hampshire have been trying to get their hands on that list. I mean, citizen activists like me have also been trying to do it, but it's being pushed as a First Amendment issue through the papers. So the newspapers in New Hampshire actually asked the AG for the list. And what they got back was a redacted list that had all the names taken out and the dates. They left what happened and in what town. So you can vaguely but not really tell anything. So for years, the papers have been fighting that. And in New Hampshire, there's also this weird exception. So our New Hampshire Constitution says that our government has to be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive to the people. That's actually in the New Hampshire Constitution. Then we have this other law. It's called RSA 91A. And that is our open government law. And that's sort of similar to in the federal, you'll hear people talk about FOIA requests, right? Freedom of information requests. So our 91A is the freedom of information requests on a state level. So you can fill out a little form and send it off to your, your department or your town hall or whatever, and you can ask them questions and they're supposed to give you the data within 5 days. So the newspapers filed a 91A for the list in an unredacted fashion. And what they got back was this crappy thing that you can do nothing with. So they sued. And it's gone all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, I'm going to remand it back to the lower courts. You guys need to actually give them the information. There's clearly a public interest in knowing who these officers are. And how, my shtick is always how are we supposed to reform or clean house if we can't identify the problem? So it's been an ongoing battle for a long time. We have systematically through the courts, through really good work from the ACLU as well as the New Hampshire Union Leaders, First Amendment attorneys, we've made a lot of really, really great progress. But then, it's the government and they're going to take all the chances they can. So they're just basically hot potatoing it. So no one wants to actually release the list. Now, partly, I believe that's because they're rightly concerned that people will sue to have their convictions kicked out because they're going to be like, well, you didn't tell us this was a crappy cop and he has a history of lying, so my conviction should go away too, right? So there is an element of cover your ass going on, the little CYA action going on. But about 3 weeks ago, I believe, it was Sunshine Week. So National Sunshine Week is basically the time of year that everyone celebrates open, accessible government, or we lament the state we're in, because government really isn't that open, accessible. And even, and this is the frustrating part, even when we actually catch them with their fingers in the cookie jar, or, get the audit or get the document or get whatever proves that, there's malfeasance or a problem or whatever, do things get fixed? Hardly ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I called the First Amendment attorney from the union leader right before Sunshine Week, and I was like, dude, do you think we could get the newspaper to print the redacted list, which is the only list we have, in the Sunday paper, so that the average, gray-haired grandma from New Hampshire who's, just reading her Sunday paper kind of goes, what the crap is this? Why can't I tell what's going on, right? Because we as activists and we as liberty people understand what is happening, but the average Joe, maybe after this year, they're starting to wonder what the hell's cooking, but the average Joe doesn't really know. And so I'm super psyched to say, I think you can see it behind me over there, that is the framed Lori's list. So that was printed in the Sunday newspaper, both sides of the paper, and people were like, what is that? What do you mean there's this someone in Salem who used excessive force? So people were really sort of riled up and activated. And so I'm hopeful that that'll help us with these issues going forward. So, one of my core issues has actually become open, transparent government, because I frequently say this on my show. I'm like, look, we have some options. I keep running for office because I'm like, maybe we can reform things. But, I'm a ANCAP at heart, so I'm also like, burn it to the ground! And I'm constantly trying to balance those two things because I don't know which solution is going to be the right one. But I do know this, that open government is one of the ways that we can at least prove, right? Because a lot of people, very few people, sadly, are actually data-driven and evidence-based. But for the ones who are, it's kind of nice when you're able to go, here, I have the example, or here are the bad cops. Why can't we know who they are? And I will call out every police chief in New Hampshire, every prosecutor, everyone. You all have the list. You have the unredacted list. If you, as you claim, don't support bad apples, why has that list in its full glory not been leaked?
Well, because those are their henchmen.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing, right? Before, there was still a veneer that things were on the up and up. I feel like all of my conspiracy friends are like, yeah, that's what I told you. And I'm like normal conspiracy level. Now the like weird conspiracy people, I'm like, hey, so what's up next? Because it is just really, it's so wild. And I don't understand how we can continue with this charade. Like half of the country, love him or hate him, half the country thinks that the election was stolen. Like our presidential election. What future does a country have when, we learned that, I learned that the presidential elections were like a joke, right? In 2012, when I saw what happened with Ron Paul, they were breaking all the rules. But now you've basically red-pilled so many different people around the country. I just don't know how these charades are supposed to keep going. They're like, oh, watch the Grammy Awards or watch the Oscars. Like I want to see those Death Eaters, get out of here. I don't know what those creeps are into, but they could go drink their little adrenochromes on someone else's dime. Like, not interested. And all of them are so revolting, and now they've got all this stuff. You can go into a safe place that has a wellness mark. And they've got J-Lo and Lady Gaga, you know, Satan herself, like some like random people that I don't know about because they, you know, like, and they're really brainwashing us hard. But I mean, I think that I now understand how we got to World War II. Like, what happened in Nazi Germany? Bunch of a-holes like the ones outside right now, you know, and I'm really, really optimistic because I get to work in crypto. I'm in Miami, Bitcoin City, going to, you know, New Hampshire, visiting my friends, blah, blah. But I don't know what the future holds. And I'm worried about all the growing homeless and all the people that are snapping at each other because we're all kind of at our breaking point. I mean, we've basically been on a very, very hardcore torture zone for a year and a half. And we are being pitted against one another. Like, I was in the elevator the other day. There's a rule, 4 people per elevator. 2 of the 4 elevators in this building, which is like filled with bajillion apartments, are broken. So we let this one extra chick, she's like, can I come in? I'm like, come on. And then this other lady's like, oh, well, you know, the rules are, it's 4. And, you know, and I'm like, well, what do you care? She said, well, those are the rules. I'm like, yeah, but you're the only one enforcing them. And then some other jerky guy, totally young guy, fit, has a cute dog, maybe could have gotten a date. Instead, he's just like, well, you know, we all have to follow the rules and we can't change the rules. I'm like, just jump out of the plane. Like, I hate you all. And I don't want to hate them, but they are basically like, they are the Nazi jailers. I mean, that might be a little bit extreme, but we're policing ourselves. We're nasty to each other. The government doesn't even need to do anything. We can just tear ourselves apart.
It's fascinating to me, right? Because I think from a propaganda standpoint, and that's something I've studied for a long time. I mean, my background is I came from South Africa. I was an anti-apartheid activist. I've kind of done one police state. I was kind of optimistic I was going to come to America and stuff was just going to be shiny and awesome. Little did I know. And I think the biggest challenge for us is actually the physical changes that they've done to people's brains, right? So I've been doing a lot of reading on the science of fear and the sort of priming of the amygdala. So it's kind of your fear centers. And by sort of, so when you make people super scared, like literally kind of scare them out of their mind, right? Then they become docile, they become obedient. They're people who are in 4 people in an elevator who can't go, why is it 4? Do we really care? You know, they're just like, follow the rules, right? Their brains have actually been conditioned into this state. And so I think actually, Tatiana, part of our job is going to be, and I've been thinking about this for a while now, is we have to start to approach the way we message as deprogramming from a cult. You know, I know a lot of people have been throwing the language of cult of COVID and the cult of statism. And I love all of that because I do think, I mean, at a minimum, statism in its truest form is just a new religion. People are just worshiping at the, golden calf, the false god, and this god is, science or the leaders or, whoever that is, right? And so I think we have to we have to look at how people are deprogrammed from cults and kind of go to that base level. Now, what's interesting is people are being broken down on some level to a kind of individualized little unit. And so the question now becomes is how do we turn that into self-actualization and actual self-empowerment? Because I'm like you, I'm constantly trying to find the bright side out of life, right? What's the point otherwise, right? Like, we're here, this is what we got, let's make it as good as we can, right? But we have spent the past year, even though it's not framed this way yet, talking about self-ownership. Because really, as a world, right? So that's a massive opportunity for pro-liberty people. Because if we can get people to actually think about self-ownership from the perspective, they're doing it wrong right now, right? Where they're saying, my body, my choice. Oh, and your body, my choice, because, ooh, I'm scared, right?
Right.
But we can have that conversation now. And if we can say self-ownership means in a consent-based society that you wear a mask, knock yourself out, do what you got to do, but you have to leave me to do the same, according to what my risk profile is, according to my self-ownership. And that's a hard one. And I will tell you, whoever the Goebbels monster is who came up with the, science medical tyranny, with the play being that we're going to convince you that if you don't do what I say, you're trying to kill me. That was genius, and that's a hard one that we're going to have to break. But I will tip my hat to whatever propagandist was like, yes, let's make them, because our shtick was always do what you want as long as you harm no one. And somehow they took the harm no one and said, actually, we're just going to say you harm when I say you harm. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, it's exhausting. But I think that you're right. There are a lot of opportunities for people to wake up. I do think that they're clamping down faster and faster. We'll just do our best, right? And in the meantime, we're all going to party at PorcFest.
We're going to party at PorcFest, and and let's think about opportunities, right? So if we have, God forbid we get this vax passport. I mean, that's going to be some kind of insanity that's coming. But, I anticipate in the long term, then what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot more private flights. We're going to see crypto flights. You're just going to have basically almost like a underground railroad. We saw this in South Africa in the 80s and 90s, right? There was an entire underground economy. There were clubs where blacks and whites hung out. There was this whole world that existed that was just kind of forced underground. Now, my preference would be that I'm not, become a secondhand citizen because, and people forget, I mean, the numbers are 50-50, right? In terms of sort of that split. Libertarians are a smaller part, but in terms of this sort of split I kind of call it a simulation model. How people are talking about, are we in a simulation? And I'm like, I don't think we're in an actual simulation, but that could just be my own ego talking. But I definitely think we are in two realities, if not three at this stage, because the difference in terms of how, my lefty friends, the handful I have left after this year, are perceiving things compared to me. Here in the Free State, we pretty much didn't change our behavior. I held PorcFest last year. PorcFest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival,
I was there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the only, if not the only, scheduled event that went ahead as planned on the dates they said they would. I made an announcement. I said, look, this is a First and Second Amendment protected event, and we're doing what we plan to do. You guys go on, enter at own risk, and come if you want to come. And it was fine. There were no health consequences. And even if someone had gotten sick, you assumed that risk by coming. Life goes on. We cannot live in fear. We have to live life to the fullest. If people are scared of dying, I keep saying, how are you living?
Totally. But that's what what you say about there being this divergence of reality. Some people really want that to be, they want to be like a little, like in a little box and given their little treats, and then they're like, I got to watch TV now. Like, that's what these people are, right? And then there's other people that are like, what's going on outside this box? And I don't think that the people who got out of the box are going back in. And the other people are pissed. But I feel like we're a little stronger than them because they're just sitting there.
Yeah, but again, I think part of our job with the messaging, with crypto, with the Free State Project, with Bitcoin City, with all of that stuff is just I think we forget that we're winning. And I'll explain why we're winning, because decentralization is happening, and it's happening so fast that they are literally, they're shitting bricks, excuse my language, but that is part of this reaction, right? So as the powers that be and the cronyists and the capitalists are trying to concentrate power, because they realize, oh crap, everything has decentralized. We're doing this show. Every person I know has a show, is putting their voices out there, is trying to say, hey, I have ideas. What about this? You don't have to follow Rihanna and Lady Gaga. You can actually find positive role models. You can find people who care about how they eat, what is sustainable. One of the things I really like about the Free State Project is that it is localism, right? So I think libertarianism is innately lends itself to tourism, because tourism pretty much is property rights. Like, you have to take care of whatever you have, whatever that, asset is, your hotel, your beach, whatever. And you have to provide service, right? I think people forget that true capitalism is actually serving your fellow man. That is what it is. You come up with something that they want and you give it to them. Like, our job in life, I read this, I'm reading Seth Godin's book right now on artistry, and I forget what the name is right now, but it triggered something in me where I was like, wow, maybe. So I think our job in life, everyone's job in life, is to take what's in your head and to present it to the world as a gift.
Tell us about the Ecstatic Pessimist, because we're coming up on the end, and your joy is infectious, so much so that you put it into a book.
Yes. Well, the book's called The Ecstatic Pessimist, because that was old Carla, but new Carla is very optimistic. And so it is a collection of essays and short stories. I did my MFA on top of my law degree about 12 years ago in New York. And so it's some short stories, award-winning short stories kind of stuff. But then there are 13 essays about the Free State Project and sort of the activism I've been doing here over the years. It's a good read. Nick Gillespie of Reason Magazine claims it's a good read. So yeah, I encourage people to get it. It is out on Amazon, or you can get it on my website, carlagericke.com.
Excellent. So everybody, please make sure you check out Carla's book. Look at what's going on in the Free State Project. Check out what's going on with LBRY and the Crypto 6. Maybe you can pull out some cash, support those projects, and get your tickets to PorcFest. I'm going to be singing, so we got to talk about that. We got to figure out a place where all the musicians. Yeah, where are all the musicians going to be playing? Because we kind of weird acoustics.
So we are not doing it in the pavilion because of the weird acoustics. So we are setting up on the field. We're going to have, Bardo is sponsoring a tent, and they're going to have sort of the community tent. And so they also know a bunch of musicians. So we're actually setting that one up as the musician tent for at night. And so the thought is that we can open the flaps of the side of the tent, and then, where the people are on the field and the bonfire. So that just becomes sort of this communal space. So people aren't, off on their own with those glaring lights and the tin making that noise. So hopefully that'll be better than before. And of course, we love having you, so I'm excited. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, Jordan's going, and he and I haven't sang together a really long time, so that'll be awesome.
When's your album coming out?
Together. I'm sorry?
When's your album coming out?
Oh, well, thank you. Love Songs for Idiots. That's what it's
Love the title, by the way. I laughed so hard when I heard that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if the album will be out by PorcFest, but I'll be putting out my next single in about a month. So, yeah, I just got the masters back. We're doing this cool NFT art that I need to figure out. So, yeah, maybe we should do something about NFTs at PorcFest.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, I'll talk to Naomi. Maybe she and I can, because usually it's all the guys over there, but we'll be like the lady Bitcoin takeover.
There we go.
Awesome. All right. Well, very cool. Thanks so much, Carla, for joining us. Everybody, I hope to see you guys at PorcFest. Make sure you check out my other podcast, proofoflovecats.com, out on Fridays for matters of the heart. These are matters of the politics. So we'll see you next time on the Tatiana Show. Bye.
Bye, guys.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.